All right, wine lovers, get ready, because today we're going deep
Deep
into a region you might not have even heard of yet.
Yeah.
Serra do Sudeste? Brazil?
Brazil?
You heard right. Brazil.
I think most people, well, I think a lot of people know that Brazil makes wine.
Right.
But what makes Serra do Sudeste so fascinating is that it's really shaking up the scene.
Okay.
It's emerging as a distinct wine region in a place you wouldn't really expect.
Yeah, and looking at all this info you've given me, it seems like it's a lot more than just novelty.
Yeah,
Unique landscapes, climates, and obviously unique wines.
for sure.
So by the end of this, listeners, I bet you'll be adding a few Serra do Sudeste bottles to your must-try list.
Definitely.
So to start,
Let's,
can you kind of set the stage for us?
yeah, so we're in Rio Grande do Sul,
Okay.
Brazil's southernmost state, which has a pretty long history of winemaking. But even within this region, Serra do Sudeste really stands out.
From what I've read, it's very different from the traditional image of Brazilian wine country.
It is, yeah. Serra Gaúcha, the region, is known for rolling hills.
Okay.
Serra do Sudeste is all about epic canyons, stunning waterfalls.
Wow.
Geographically, it's just a world apart.
So we can't talk about Brazilian wine without talking about the Italian influence, right?
Wow, absolutely.
Yeah.
Winemaking in Rio Grande do Sul has deep roots in Italian immigration, going all the way back to the 19th century.
Wow.
Italian families brought their winemaking traditions,
Right.
shaped the industry to what we know it as today.
So Rio Grande do Sul has been making wine for over a century.
Yes,
Serra do Sudeste is much more recent.
much more recent, yeah.
Yeah.
A newcomer, just kicking off in the early 2000s.
So tell me about the terroir, because that's what I'm really interested in.
Oh, this is where Serra do Sudeste really shines.
Okay.
The microclimate is significantly higher in altitude than Serra Gaúcha. It's dry, windy,
Okay.
and maybe surprisingly prone to late frosts.
Late frost. I
Yeah.
mean, that just seems like a major obstacle for vineyards.
It is, yeah. It means Serra do Sudeste's winemakers have to deal with a much more unpredictable environment.
Right.
A lot more demanding,
Yeah.
requiring constant adaptation, ingenuity.
So the challenges are actually a benefit.
Yeah.
They make it unique.
Totally.
What about the soil?
Soil composition is predominantly sandy, which is great for drainage.
Okay.
But the real intrigue comes from pockets of granite and basalt
Oh,
in
interesting.
certain areas.
Yeah, so you're going to get some minerality there, I bet,
Exactly.
from those granite and basalt deposits.
You know your geology.
A little bit.
That's good.
So challenging climate, mix of soil types. No wonder Serra do Sudeste wines are developing a reputation for being so distinct.
And we haven't even gotten to the grapes.
I know, I know.
But remember, Serra do Sudeste is warmer and drier than Serra Gaúcha.
Right.
So you've got a different set of grapes that thrive here.
Well, let's talk about those grapes.
Right.
Because that's what ends up in our glass.
That's what we're all here for.
So for white wines, what's the star?
Chardonnay,
Chardonnay. Okay.
the undisputed star, seems to have found a perfect home
Really?
in Serra do Sudeste.
Wow.
Produces these elegant wines, a blend of citrus, crisp apple, and that minerality we talked about.
One thing that surprised me is how Serra do Sudeste Chardonnay is used for both still and sparkling wines.
It is, yeah. Speaks to the versatility of the grape and how skillfully the winemakers are adapting techniques to the terroir.
It's not just Chardonnay, though, right?
You're right.
I mean, Sauvignon Blanc seems to do really well there, too.
Sauvignon Blanc thrives in this region, but with a twist.
Okay, how so?
So, a French Sauvignon Blanc might be known for its grassy, herbaceous character.
Right, right.
Serra do Sudeste Sauvignon Blanc leans more towards tropical fruit,
Oh,
pronounced herbal notes. Guava, passion fruit, hints of white flowers, even.
So not your classic Sancerre.
No, totally different.
Got it.
And just to add to the variety, Serra do Sudeste also produces Riesling Italico and Pinot Grigio, showcasing that Italian heritage.
So this is shaping up to be a white wine paradise.
Yeah.
But we got to talk reds, too.
You do.
What about the reds? What are some stars?
One that really shines is Cabernet Franc.
Cabernet Franc.
Yeah, the region brings out its best qualities.
Okay.
Think wines with black pepper spice, a graphite-like minerality, and sometimes even a hint of green bell pepper.
Interesting.
It's a really unique expression.
And then you have Tannet, which is kind of a powerhouse grape,
It is.
known for those bold, tannic wines.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for everyone, but I heard it does remarkably well in Serra do Sudeste.
It does. You can expect those rich, dark fruit flavors,
Right.
firm tannins. Structure allows these wines to age.
But what about something more approachable,
Yeah.
like a Merlot?
Merlot in Serra do Sudeste tends to be smooth and easy drinking.
Okay.
So instead of that jammy, fruit-forward style you might find elsewhere, think bright red cherry fruit, subtle herbal notes,
Interesting.
a soft, velvety texture.
So we've talked about the climate, the soil, the grapes,
We have.
but I'm thinking about all the work that goes into actually growing those grapes.
Oh, totally. Vineyard management is crucial.
Yeah.
It's all about finding ways to protect the vines from those late frosts, pruning techniques, trellis systems to withstand the wind.
It sounds like a dance between nature and human intervention.
It is.
You really have to know the land, know the vines.
Absolutely.
And that's just the beginning.
That's right.
Once the grapes are harvested, you've got the winemaking process itself.
That's when the magic happens.
Do they lean more towards traditional methods or modern techniques?
It's about finding that balance between the
Okay.
two
Mm-hmm.
to create wines that express that Serra do Sudeste terroir.
Right.
For white wines, the focus is often on preserving the freshness,
Okay.
the delicate aromas.
Right.
So stainless steel tanks for fermentation, maintaining those bright, zesty characteristics.
Makes sense, especially for something like Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Uh,
Where you want those bright fruit notes.
Exactly.
But are they using oak at all for Chardonnay?
Some winemakers do experiment with oak, adds
Yeah.
a whole other dimension of complexity, bringing notes of vanilla, spice, toastiness.
So they're not afraid to experiment to find the best technique.
No, not at all.
And what about red wines?
For reds, that same dedication to balance comes through.
Okay.
Fermentation can happen in stainless steel tanks or in oak barrels, depending on the style they're trying to achieve.
So for bigger, bolder reds that can age,
Yeah.
you probably want to use oak to soften the tannin.
You got it. Oak aging allows for slow, controlled oxidation,
Right.
softens those tannins, adds layers of aroma and flavor,
Yeah.
even helps stabilize the color of the wine.
It really is like assembling a puzzle, choosing each piece carefully.
It is.
You have the grape variety, the fermentation method, the aging technique,
Mhm.
and it all has to come together.
To create a harmonious whole.
Now, we also talked about Serra do Sudeste producing sparkling wine, right?
We
Lara?
did.
What's going on there?
So many producers are embracing the traditional method.
Okay, so like champagne.
Same one, yep. Labor-intensive process, secondary fermentation in the bottle itself,
Wow.
extended aging on the lees,
Which are?
the inactive yeast cells,
Right.
left over from fermentation, adds those biscuity, toasty notes we associate with high-quality sparkling wines, along with that fine, persistent bead.
It's amazing how this relatively new region is mastering such a diverse range of winemaking.
It is.
It really speaks to their ambition and willingness to push the boundaries.
It does.
And it seems like, I mean, from everything we've talked about,
Yeah,
that they're really dedicated to showcasing that Serra do Sudeste terroir.
definitely. That unique sense of place in every single bottle.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Dramatic landscape to great varieties and winemaking techniques.
The base.
We've only just scratched the surface, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Serra do Sudeste is full of surprises.
And ready for those surprises.
And there's a whole world of flavors waiting to be discovered.
Well, listeners, you know what that means? Get ready for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the wines of Serra do Sudeste. We'll talk specific producers, flavor profiles, and even some food pairing ideas to help you experience this region to the fullest.
Sounds great.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into Serra do Sudeste.
Yeah.
After that last segment,
Mm-hmm.
I am even more fascinated by this region.
Oh, good.
It's like a classic underdog story.
It is.
Unexpected location, unique challenges, and a real passion driving it forward.
You've hit the nail on the head, and that's what makes exploring a new wine region so exciting.
Right.
It's not just about the wine, it's about the people, the history, the land, and the stories they tell.
And speaking of history,
Yeah.
I was reading a little bit more about how viticulture developed in Serra do Sudeste.
Okay.
And it sounds like it wasn't always smooth sailing.
No, you're right.
You know, we mentioned that this region only began producing fine wines in the early 2000s.
Yeah. In the early days, it was mainly focused on those American grape varieties, Isabelle and Bordeaux,
Right.
used for table wines and juice.
Which makes sense. I mean, Rio Grande do Sul already had a wine culture,
Mm.
but they weren't really focused on the complex, high-quality wines that we're seeing from Serra do Sudeste today.
Not at that point, no.
So how did these early producers, how did they adapt
It's a really good question.
and pave the way for what we see today?
Well, it was a couple of things. First, you had some really dedicated individuals
Okay.
who weren't afraid to experiment,
Hmm.
to learn from mistakes,
Right.
really understand what that terroir could offer.
I feel like that's a recurring theme we see in
Yeah.
wine. That combination of passion and perseverance
Absolutely.
often leads to those big breakthroughs.
Totally. And alongside that drive, research played a crucial role.
Okay.
Took a lot of study to determine which grape varieties were best suited
Mm.
for the region's climate and soil.
So it wasn't just about planting whatever was popular at the time.
No, it was much more methodical,
Ugh.
scientific,
Just
matching the right grape with the right place.
So as these vineyards started to flourish,
Yeah,
investment followed, right?
it did.
Leading to the development of these modern wineries.
Modern wineries, better equipment,
Mm-hmm.
a real focus on attracting skilled winemakers
Right.
could help elevate the quality even further.
So you have these dedicated individuals,
Yeah.
you have the scientific understanding,
Yep.
and then you have the resources
Yeah,
to
so-
make it all happen.
You can't forget the associations and government agencies
Oh, right.
that provided support, research, technical assistance, even access to credit.
That's interesting.
All these elements helped build this sustainable wine industry in Serra do Sudeste.
Okay, so we've talked about history, terroir, grape varieties,
Yeah.
but I want to learn more about what's actually happening in the winery.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about the winemaking process in Serra do Sudeste?
Well, one thing that struck me was how winemakers are blending the traditional techniques
Good.
with the modern technology.
Mm.
It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding that perfect harmony
Right.
between the two
Right.
to create wines that are both expressive of the origin and technically brilliant.
Can you give us some specific examples?
Sure. So let's start with the whites.
Okay.
One of the goals with the white wines is to preserve that freshness
Mm-hmm.
and those delicate aromas that are so characteristic.
Of Serra do Sudeste whites.
Yeah. So this often involves fermenting the juice in stainless steel tanks,
Okay.
which helps maintain those bright, zesty flavors.
Right.
Temperature control during fermentation is also crucial to prevent the loss of those volatile aromatics.
Makes sense when you're thinking about Sauvignon Blanc,
Yeah.
Chardonnay,
Yeah.
where those fresh fruit notes are so important.
But you'll also find some winemakers who are choosing to ferment or age some of their white wines in oak barrels.
Okay.
This adds another layer of complexity, introduces notes of vanilla, spice, toastiness.
So they're adapting their techniques based on the grape
Mhm.
and the style of wine.
That they're going for.
And this same philosophy applies to red wine production, right?
Yeah, the choice between stainless steel and oak really depends on the outcome for each particular wine.
So oak is going to be used for those bigger, more age-worthy reds.
Yeah.
Softening the tannins, developing complexity.
Exactly. Oak aging allows for that gradual, controlled oxidation
Mm-hmm.
that softens those tannins, adds layers of aroma and flavor,
Right.
and enhances the color stability.
It really is like they're these artists
Here,
carefully selecting their tools
their techniques.
to create this masterpiece.
It's a beautiful way to put it. And their artistry doesn't stop there.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, Serra do Sudeste is also making sparkling wine?
Yes, very exciting.
A lot of the producers are using the traditional method.
So that champagne method.
The same one, yeah.
Wow.
It involves secondary fermentation right inside the bottle, followed by aging on the lees.
Those inactive yeast cells.
Exactly. It gives sparkling wine those characteristic biscuity, toasty notes
Mhm.
and that fine, persistent bead.
It's amazing that this relatively new region
Mm-hmm.
is mastering so many wine styles
It is.
so quickly.
Yeah, it speaks to their ambition and desire to really push the boundaries.
And through all of this,
Yeah,
it seems like they never lose sight of their ultimate goal,
they don't.
which is to showcase that Serra do Sudeste terroir,
You're right.
that sense of place.
And every bottle.
Well said.
Thank you.
I'm starting to understand why Serra do Sudeste is getting all this attention.
Yeah,
It's not just about making good wine.
it's more than that.
It's about crafting wines that tell a story,
Yeah.
that capture the spirit of this place.
You've summed it up perfectly.
I think so.
Yeah, and that story is only just beginning.
Okay.
There's so much more to discover about Serra do Sudeste.
All right, listeners, get ready for part 3, where we'll shift our focus to the wines themselves. We'll talk specific producers, discuss flavor profiles, and even explore some food pairing suggestions to help you experience the magic of Serra do Sudeste firsthand.
Sounds delicious.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
We're back.
We've spent the last two segments really getting to know Serra do Sudeste,
Yeah.
from the dramatic landscapes
Hmm.
to the innovative winemaking.
It's a special place.
Now it's time for the main event,
All right.
the wines.
Let's do it.
What's so interesting about Serra do Sudeste is it offers both the familiarity and surprise.
Yeah.
You have those classic grapes, Chardonnay, Merlot,
Right.
but they're expressed in ways that are uniquely Brazilian.
Yeah, there's something really special about the way those grapes take on a new personality in this environment.
So let's get specific. What are
Yeah.
some Serra do Sudeste wines that our listeners should be on the lookout for?
Okay, let's start with reds. For those who love bold, age-worthy wines,
Hmm.
the Guatambu Epico is a must-try. It's a Bordeaux-style blend.
So Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc.
Yeah, showcasing the structure and complexity this region can achieve.
And I've heard it can age for a long time.
It can. It's got those layers of dark fruit like black currant and plum,
Okay.
interwoven with notes of cedar, tobacco, and even a hint of dark chocolate.
So in the previous segments, we talked about some of those unexpected grape varieties that are doing well in Serra do Sudeste.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Ravanello Premium Terroir 2018.
Oh, the Terrell Dago.
That one really caught my eye.
It's a hidden gem for sure.
I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with Terroir.
That's okay.
What does it taste like?
Think juicy red fruit, cherries, raspberries, along with some delicate floral notes like violets.
Okay.
There's also this savory, earthy undertone
Okay.
that speaks to the terroir.
Yeah, it sounds delicious.
It's very food-friendly.
Okay, what would you pair it with?
Grilled meats, pasta, even pizza.
Okay, that one is going on my list.
Good, good.
Now, Chardonnay,
Uh-huh.
the star of Serra do Sudeste.
It really is.
It's getting a lot of attention.
And rightfully so. It's producing world-class expressions.
So what's a good example?
The Don Garino Sustenido Chardonnay.
Okay.
It undergoes fermentation and aging in oak barrels, which creates a rich, creamy texture.
Okay, so you get those aromas of ripe apple, pear, maybe a little citrus,
You got it.
and those toasty vanilla notes
And a distinct minerality.
from the oak, right?
Well, from the oak and from that granite and basalt in the soil.
So I'm guessing this is a Chardonnay that can stand up to some richer dishes.
Oh, absolutely. Creamy pasta dishes, roasted chicken, even grilled seafood would be fantastic.
What about for those who prefer a crisper style of white wine?
The Sauvignon Blancs from this region are definitely worth checking out.
Okay.
They're a little different from the typical Sauvignon Blancs you might find elsewhere.
That's what I noticed in my research.
Yeah, instead of those green vegetal notes, you get more tropical fruit character, passion fruit, guava,
Interesting.
maybe even a hint of mango. And that bright acidity is still there.
Okay, so good for warm weather.
Perfect for it.
So it's amazing to think that just a couple decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
Serra do Sudeste was relatively unknown.
It was.
And now it's winning awards, getting international recognition.
It's really a testament to those winemakers. They saw the potential.
Yeah.
They're not just making wine, they're building a legacy, a story connected to the land.
And that's what makes exploring these regions so interesting.
It is.
We're not just learning about a new wine region, we're uncovering a story.
Exactly.
A story of passion, innovation, respect for the land.
It's an invitation to join the adventure.
So find those wines.
Yeah.
Savor the flavors.
And let yourself be transported to Serra do Sudeste.
It's been a journey.
It has.
We've learned about the history, the terroir, the grapes, the winemaking.
The people.
I hope this has inspired you to embark on your own Serra do Sudeste wine journey.
Cheers to that.
Here's Clazy.